Hi guys, today I'm taking you through your steps to makeup checklist. So the first step is going to be consulting with your client and determining their skin type, because their skin type is going to help you choose which products are going to be right for them. So the first question I always ask is just, what do you think your skin type is? Do you think you go oily or dry throughout the day? Tell me a little bit about your skin. So for people with really oily skin, we're going to use a lot more mattifying products, and for someone with more dry skin, we're going to use a lot more hydrating products. We want to prep the skin before we do any kind of makeup to make sure it's completely clean. So the way we do that is by using a cleanser. You can either use a cream cleanser or a liquid cleanser, which you actually foam up in your hands and rub onto the face to remove any excess makeup or bacteria or anything like that. Or the alternative is just to take a couple cotton pads and some micellar water, because this is a cleanser in itself and it's really good to have in your kit because it's so quick and easy to use. So all you need to do is take a little bit of product on some cotton pads. You don't want them to be soaking so they're dripping. You do want them wet enough so that you're not rubbing a dry cotton pad all over somebody's face, because that just doesn't feel good. So you're going to take 2 cotton pads. I like to take 2 fingers and have them behind the cotton pad. Then my third finger is going to go in front, and then my thumb is going to go in front. And you're kind of holding it around your 2 fingers, so that way you're not touching the person's skin with your hands. You have a lot of control over where you're wiping. So you're just going to remove any excess sweat, oil, bacteria from the face, and make sure you get the neck as well. And if they're wearing any kind of eye makeup, you would have to remove that first with a oil-based makeup remover, because the oils are going to break down any kind of mascara or eyeliner that they may be wearing. If you do use a proper foaming cleanser or a liquid cleanser, what you need to do is remove that afterwards with a water. So just get 2 water-soaked cotton pads and remove that product off of the face, because we can't have soap left on the face. So now my skin is nice and clean. There's no dirt or anything like that or leftover makeup on my skin. I'm going to moisturize. So it's really, really important that we moisturize no matter what type of skin we have, because sometimes with oily skin, it may just be dehydrated because you're not adding any extra moisture into it. For someone with dry skin, you want something a little bit richer and thicker feeling. And with someone with more oily skin, you may want to use more of a water-based moisturizer, because it's going to be a little bit more lightweight on oily skin. So I took a few pumps of moisturizer, and I can put this in between my hands, and I can rub it between my hands and apply it this way. But what you want to do is ask your client if it's okay that you use your hands on their face. I like to moisturize like this because it does help the product melt into the skin a little bit better. But if you're not comfortable using your hands on someone else's face, you can use a stippling brush like this and really work that product into the skin in big circular motions. You want to almost massage that product into the skin to make sure that it completely soaks in and you're not left with any excess product. So now my skin has moisturizer. It has a layer of protection now before we put the makeup on. To make sure the makeup lasts all day long though, we can also apply a primer. So the reason we do a primer is because it's going to make your makeup last all day long, and it also creates another protective barrier between your skin and the makeup, so that way the makeup doesn't get absorbed into the face throughout the day. The primer you use again depends on the person's skin type. So for more oily skin, you may want to use a mattifying primer only in the areas they actually get oily. So ask them if they get oily in their T-zone or their cheeks or just their chin, and they'll be able to tell you exactly where to put that primer. For someone with more dry skin, you want something like a nourishing primer, which is going to feel really rich and thick on the skin. And anyone with normal skin, you can kind of do just a normal hydrating primer. So I'm just going to put a little pea-sized amount of primer on my hand and take that same brush. Because it's got moisturizer in it, it's fine to put the primer on as well, because there's already moisturizer on the skin. And I'm just going to dot that all over the face. This is just a hydrating primer, so I can apply this everywhere. And I'm just first tapping it onto the skin to spread that product out. And then we're going to go back and do those big circular strokes to help blend everything together. I focus the primer just on the skin predominantly, but you can go over the eye area if it's more of a hydrating product. You don't want to put anything mattifying around the eyes though. And remember to always take it down the neck, because you're going to be putting foundation here, so you still need primer there as well. Some products, such as the Embryolisse La Creme, actually act as a moisturizer and a primer in one, so you don't actually have to do both steps. You could just apply the one product and save yourself a little bit of time. For foundation, you also want to ask your client questions about what they like to wear and how they want their makeup to look throughout the day. So for someone wearing just a natural kind of foundation, we might want something a little bit more light coverage. If someone's going out for like an evening out, we want something a little bit more full coverage. We can also determine whether we want to be more dewy or more matte because of their skin type. So someone with more dry skin may prefer the look of a more dewy foundation, and someone with more oily skin may prefer something a little bit more matte. So when you're applying foundation, you either want to pump it onto a palette like this or onto the back of your hand, whatever your personal preference is. So I'm just going to take a couple pumps first, and we can always add more if we need it. The brush you use is totally up to you. I like big flat buffing brushes like this, or using beauty blenders, just depending on what I feel like that day. So I like to use a combination of both of them. I like buffing brushes like this because they give you a bit more full coverage versus something like a stippling brush will give you less sheer coverage. So I'm just going to apply this foundation all over the face, avoiding the eye area. At any point I can also add one more pump just wherever I need the extra coverage. For around the eye area, we want to use a concealer that's going to help counteract blues or purples underneath the eyes. So if someone's very, very dark underneath their eyes, using more of a peachy concealer can help counteract those colors. I'm just going to use a concealer that's 1 to 2 shades lighter than my skin tone because that adds that brightness around the eye area. With any product with a wand, you want to take the wand and pop the product on your palette or on the back of your hand. You never want to apply it directly to the person's face. For concealer, I like to use slightly more of a fluffy brush instead of a flat brush because this enables me to dust the product underneath the eyes and really buff and blend it in to the entire eye area. So I'm taking it almost in a triangle down to the front of my cheek and then all the way up to my temple here, and then all over my entire eyelid area as well. And because my brush is nice and fluffy, I'm able to buff and blend it in really easily. So immediately that entire eye area is completely brightened compared to the other side. Right now the concealer around the eye is really wet, so we want to set that in place to make sure that it's not going to crease or it's not going to move. So just taking some translucent powder, I'm just taking what's in the lid, so you don't need a lot of it. I'm going to make sure there's no creases underneath the eyes, so just tap out any of those little lines that can happen, and then just press that powder all over that concealer underneath the eyes. You could also set any areas of the face that you're going to apply powder products. So I'm going to do some powder contour and blush and all of that sort of thing. So I'm going to powder my cheeks just here. If anyone got shiny throughout the day or they're a bit oily, maybe in their T-zone, you would powder that area as well. So you just want to ask the person where they get shiny throughout the day and apply powder anywhere that may potentially look sweaty or shiny or anything like that. When I'm powdering, I'm just tapping my brush. I'm not swiping it because I don't want to move that foundation that we just worked so hard to blend into the skin. And by tapping it like this, we ensure that it stays in place. I'm going to do my cheeks at this stage while I'm doing all of the base, and then we're going to move on to the eyes. So for cheeks, we want to start with contour, and then we're going to apply a highlight and a blush. It doesn't matter which order in which you do these. I prefer to do contour, blush, highlight. You may want to do contour, highlight, and then blush. It totally depends on your personal preference. So taking a matte contour color, I'm going to use this on an angled or fluffy brush and hold it on its side, just at the top of the ear, and then work this down towards the mouth, following that line. Essentially what you're doing is creating a bit of a line here that you never want to go lower than. So everything's always going to be blended up from that area. So again, you'll notice I'm tapping my brush. I'm not swiping it like this because I prefer to start by tapping to make sure, again, we keep our foundation exactly where we've placed it, and it will help your blending a lot later on. Once you're happy with the intensity of the color, then you can go in with circular motions just to dust it up and blend it up. But you always want to start by patting your product into the face. If you have a slightly larger forehead, you could also put a little bit of bronzer or contour around the sides of the forehead. You can also go underneath the jaw, but totally depends on your face shape and what you prefer. Next is blush. So I'm going to take a slightly smaller angled brush like this, or a flat fluffy brush, and I'm just going to tap that blush into the mirror first before I put it on the face. Sometimes blush is really strong when you first put it on, so to make sure that you're not going too intense, I just tap it on the mirror first, and then I smile, and I want to put the blush right on the apples of the cheeks, right here. So again, I'm just going to tap that product right onto the apples of the cheeks first. And then when I'm happy with that, I'm going to bring it all the way up. So we've just done our contour line and we're going to do blush a little bit higher up. And then we'll have some nice color in the face. And then finally, I'm going to take a highlighter on a fan brush like this. You could also use a smaller fluffy brush like this, whatever you like to use. And I'm going to pop that right on the top of the cheekbone. I don't want to draw this down to the front of the cheek at all. I want to keep it right on the outside of the cheek up here. I also like to highlight my cupid's bow just on top of my lip here. And if you have a smaller nose, you could also highlight the tip of the nose as well. Next, let's move on to eyes. So our eyes are primed first with that concealer that we did before, but now we want to make sure that concealer is set. So I'm going to take just a skin toned powder, something matte, and use a big fluffy brush. And I'm going to make sure that there's no creasing like this all over the eyelid. So you can take a finger and just wipe that away, or your concealer brush from before, because if you set that concealer with a crease in it, you'll always be able to see that crease. Now I'm going to take that skin toned powder and just press that all over that eye area. So going all the way up to the eyebrow and all the way over the eyelid. The reason we set the entire eye area is so that our blending is a lot easier later on. This also acts as a tint, which is the lightest color that's going to help brighten up that entire area. Next, we're going in with our tone, which is going to be our transition color. So a tone is going to be something like this color here, which is a nice light brown. This has a warmer undertone to it. Or you could take something like this, which is a little bit more of a cool tone to it, whatever kind of look you want to do. Another good trick is to use whatever color you used as your bronzer as well. So taking that same fluffy brush, I'm just tapping in once or twice, tapping off any excess, and I'm going to start my brush in the outer corner of the crease. So I'm going to look down to make sure that I can see where I'm putting that product. And by starting in the outside of the eye, I'm always putting the most amount of product on the outside. So I start by just tapping that in the crease, and then I'm going to do tiny little circles and windshield wiper motions. So you do windshield wiper motions back and forth into the crease, and then when you want to blend it up, you can do tiny little circles all the way in and out until it looks really nice and blended. If you want it more intense than that, you can dip back into that product and add a little bit more, but I'm happy with the intensity of that for a natural kind of day makeup. Next, I'm going to take a dark brown shade. So this is going to be what creates that real nice dimension on the eyes. So something dark like this, or even like a warm tone like this would work really nicely, or even something like this. So they all have a different undertone to them, but they're basically like a medium to dark brown that's going to help create shape on the outside corner of the eye. So what I want to do is get my model to look straight forward and have a look at this outer corner of their crease. And I'm just going to dust a little bit of that product into that area first so that I can put it in the correct place while their eyes are open. And I'm basically aiming this for just the outer corner of the eye. Then when I'm happy with that, I'm going to get them to look down again, and I'm going to go back in with those tiny little circles to blend the outer corner of the eye. You can blend this color about halfway across the crease, but you don't want to bring it all the way in anymore. So I just do tiny half windshield wipers and then tiny little circles. And then I'm going to go back in with the brush I used originally for that transition color and just dust over the edges. This is the quickest and easiest way to help blend everything together and make sure all your eyeshadows look really nice and seamless. Next, I'm going to apply some eyeliner. You're going to take your gel eyeliner and you want to use the bottom of the brush to scoop some of that product out and pop it on the back of your hand or pop it on your metal palette. You don't ever want to dip your brush directly into that product. And then you're just going to line the entire eye line however you like to do it. Next, we're going to do some mascara. So you want to take a mascara, take out the wand it comes with, and instead use a disposable spoolie. So you're going to dip that in once, pull it out, never pump the mascara because that just puts air into the product. Wipe away any excess you got on the tip of the wand, and then immediately close up that mascara again so you're not tempted to double dip. So once you use this on someone's face, you must throw this away or wash it and sanitize it before you can use it again. You can never put this back into this mascara because that would contaminate it with bacteria. So you're just going to get your client to look down and wiggle that mascara back and forth in between their lashes and coat all of their lashes. You can also apply mascara to the bottom lashes if you like. I'm just going to finish off the eye area with a little bit of brows. So take whatever product you like to use. I'm going to use a pencil today to help fill in any of those gaps that you may have naturally in the eyebrows. And I'm just going to scribble this back and forth in between my natural brow hairs. Then you're going to use a spoolie to brush out that product and make sure it's nice and soft and there's not too many harsh edges anywhere. Finally, we're going to do some lips. So I'm going to take a lip pencil and draw all over the entire lip. So I'm tracing around the outsides and then I'm going to colour in the entire area. You can also use a lip brush to blend this together. Then I'm going to take a small lip brush and put a little bit of lipstick on the back of my hand. So you would wind up your lipstick, scrape some off with the brush, and then pop that on the back of your hand or onto your palette and use that to apply the lipstick to the mouth. So using a brush, I'm going to pick up some of that product and apply that all over the entire lip area, covering up all that lip liner. And that is your basic steps to makeup. And remember, these steps will change and the order in which you do these steps will change depending on the complexity of the makeup and what your personal style is. So we teach you this way first because it's really important to know these steps and make sure you're ticking them all off for us to then change the steps around and change the order in which we do them depending on what type of makeup we're doing. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Can't wait to see what you guys come up with, and I'll see you at your next tutorial. Bye!